I got chronic fatigue syndrome. In 95 and 96, I traveled in 40 countries in 95 and 45 countries in 96, giving about 250 talks a year. And I became very, very sick. And I think the reason was because every time someone invited me to speak, I would always say yes. And I didn't realize that sometimes good things can be bad for you.
Hey John, what are you doing?
I'm trying to juggle. It's not really working.
It looks very difficult.
Yeah, tell me about it. Let me put those away. Sometimes life is like juggling. You have too many things going on at once and you just end up crashing and burning.
My life is like that too. It's so hectic. I have work, I have school, I have coming here, I have going to church. Then I have to hang out with my family and my friends too because they're very important to me, so there's just so much to do.
Yeah. It isn't easy trying to keep up with our fast-paced world.
And as Matthew Kelly, our Spotlight guest today, said at the opening of our program, sometimes good things can be bad for you.
That is what we're going to talk about on our show today. Taking a break in a fast-paced world. Hi everyone, I'm John.
And I'm Alicia.
And this is Real Faith TV.
You met our Spotlight guest, Matthew Kelly, at the beginning of our program.
Matthew Kelly is a speaker and the author of 7 books, including The Rhythm of Life and Rediscovering Catholicism.
We will hear more from Matthew later in the show about his thoughts and own experiences on this topic.
We will also talk with our studio guests.
But first, let's meet some teens on the street and see how they are keeping up with the world and if they feel they have enough time to do the things they want to do.
There's definitely not enough time to do everything. I mean, there's only 24 hours a day and 7 days in a week. You're never going to have enough time to do everything. And it's sometimes really hard to weigh out what's better to do and what you want to use your time wisely for.
There definitely is not enough time between school and extracurricular activities. You really have to, make time to decide what's more important and when you're going to have free time and when you're going to work. So it's hard, but you find a way.
Sometimes it gets a little hectic if you're caught up in school and everything, but you can usually find time to do that kind of stuff.
Once in a while you'll, have some sports and schoolwork and stuff to do, and you need to try to find time for everything, but like they said, there's not enough hours in a day.
I wish there was so much more time, but you're given what you got and you do what's most important to you.
Do you feel like there isn't enough time for you to do all of the things that you want or need to do?
No, I'm only 17. I have the rest of my life.
What are some things that you would like to do if you had more time?
Probably a lot more charity work. I love to work with little kids. I don't know, maybe some more free time to myself would be great too, I guess.
Spend more time with your friends, go out, do things.
I travel a lot more.
I think I'd go to a little more sports events.
Get more involved in my school, I guess, because I don't have enough time with dancing, I guess.
Probably clean my room more often and just get involved and make new friends.
Maybe just relaxing and enjoying the world around you would just be a relief.
Well, it seems for everyone time is a hot commodity and you don't get a lot of it, so the time that you have, you should spend doing something you enjoy.
Yeah, time's very precious and you have to spend it wisely and you have to enjoy the time because you only live once. Let's see how our studio guests feel about this. With us today we have Cora, Zoe, Martin, Nicole, and Vanessa.
How do you guys feel about this? Do you feel like you have enough time to do the things that you want, or are you always pressed for time?
I think it depends a lot. Sometimes, especially in academics and schoolwork, I find that not only time, but I don't have enough energy or the time to really complete a task. But then with other things, sometimes I'll be walking around the house and I find myself bored, so it depends a lot. It never really equals out.
It seems when you need to do something, you never have enough time.
Exactly, but there are other times you're just sitting around oh, what am I gonna do now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then in those times that you're not doing anything, you feel guilty because you're thinking, I know there's something that I need to be doing right now. Then you think of all the other things that you could be doing, all those distractions like TV, the internet, the books you want to read, and there are just so many things you have to pick and you have to manage your time. It gets really hectic.
So guys, how much do you think society is to blame for the fast pace of our lives versus how much control we have over the pace of our own lives?
I think that society and the individual each have partial control. I mean, you can manage your time too, but the truth is that there's so much pressure to, do a certain thing, fill a certain quota, that it's controlled by both.
Mm-hmm. You know, especially in our day of age, and we're all around the same age too. And if you haven't started doing like college applications and looking at colleges, then you will be in a few years. But it's so nerve-wracking. It's a really, really hard time. And you also have like homework and sports and hanging out with friends, and it gets really stressful, and we just have to find a way how to deal with it. Maybe the show will help us today.
Yeah, I always think like it'll be Saturday night and I'll be sitting there and I really have to, you know, I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna have any time tomorrow to do anything, so I'll be sitting there doing homework, and then somebody will call me and they'll be like, do you want to go out and do something? And I'm thinking to myself, oh, I should really get this done. But then I just kind of sit back and I think, you know, in 10 years, what am I gonna remember? Like how to graph trigonometric functions, or like am I gonna remember being with my friends and that kind of thing? So I think sometimes you just have to prioritize that way and just be with your friends and your family and what matters to you.
Also, it's more difficult now because of technology. Before technology, if a person was, say, a farmer, their entire lives were farming and their family. But now that there's so much technology and there's so much, people have more time, but they fill it up with all the things that they want to do and need to do, and now that's the norm. And you think that if you don't do that, then your life will be somehow less worth, or.
I think sometimes the slow pace scares us in this country. We're on the cutting edge of all the technology and everything, and you know, our markets and everything are just racing. And other countries look at America and they're like, well, you know, we take breaks, we take vacations. And I think that sometimes it's just hard to get caught up in, you know, wanting more, wanting a better life for your family or things like that, or wanting to get better grades so you can get into college. And you just kind of lose track of the fact that, you know, God gave you this life and God gave you your body and things like that. And you need to relax once in a while and take care of yourself. Otherwise, you can't perform to the best of your ability.
Yeah, this country is obsessed with more. I need better stuff, I need it now. You know, everyone's trying to fit everything in and, you know, do everything they possibly can do. But there's a saying, live simply so others may simply live. So if you take your time, you prioritize what's important to you, you don't like overuse stuff, then, you know, that's the way to live, and that's the way Jesus lived, and that's what we should do.
It's very interesting. When we were saying society, the lyrics sort of popped into my head of that old song that says, you know, like, I don't know, I'm paraphrasing, but it says like, I'm standing here, like, entertain me. Like, that's sort of what we think is we always have to be busy. We always have to be doing something. Like, it's like abnormal for us to like sit down and like relax and not do anything.
Enjoy life. Right?
Yeah, like again, society, it's so fast paced that we've been constantly doing things, and so I think that society definitely has an impact on our lives in that way.
Yeah, we're taught since we're little children, every day at school, be your best, strive to be your best, work the hardest so you can make the most money, blah, blah, blah. You know, every once in a while it's okay to sit down and read a book, just to look at the beautiful things that God gave you, and you know, and it also refreshes your body, your mind and body, and puts you in a good mood.
Exactly. Those quiet moments are the ones that bring you closer to God, and then you can come to realize what His goal is for you and where He wants you to go, so that you can kind of focus on the one path that He has for you, rather than running in a million different directions and just burning yourself out. We know the problem, but now what about the solution? Let's go back to our teens on the street and see what they do when they need a break.
You know, I'll put in some music and I'll read, or I'll dance or work out, things like that.
I play the piano, or I go jogging, or I come to youth conferences like this one.
I like to relax by reading, doing things like outside, especially on a beautiful day like today, is just maybe just going outside and sitting in the yard and just relaxing.
Usually reading, sometimes watching, you know, a movie that I really like, listening to music, you know, talking to my friends online or on the phone, and even sometimes going out, although sometimes that's even more crazy than, you know, just doing schoolwork.
I play basketball. I go outside and shoot some hoops and get my mind off stuff.
I just lay down, watch some TV, you know, just kind of hang out, relax.
Take naps and relax and meditate. Anything to keep me like off, like worrying about stuff.
I sort of like lock myself in my room, as sad as it says. I like close off everything and I just go in my room and listen to music.
I go to my friend's house and they'll let me stay there. I'll draw and I'll write.
I know that when I need a break, I just simply, you know, go outside, maybe pop on a CD in my Walkman, just bring it outside, listen to some music, maybe read a book, just look at the sky, look at the grass, and realize how beautiful everything is and how small and like my troubles amount to nothing in this world. It's so big and beautiful, and I should really stop worrying about them.
Exactly. When I need a break, I do pretty much the same thing. I'll lay by the pool or just go for a walk, spend time with my family, and then I just really put my life into perspective, and the little things that I'm stressing out about, they just don't seem so big. And I really can just appreciate the world and the life that God has given to me.
So guys, what do you do when you need a break?
When I need a break, I probably most of the time listen to music, and I like to draw. And going to the beach is like really therapeutic for me too, because the ocean is calming, and I don't know, it just reminds me of, I don't know, everything is so beautiful around us, and if you take your life out of context, just like you were just saying, it's like none of your problems, at Judgment Day are going to be, a big deal. And there's always somebody that's got it worse than you, and you just kind of have to realize that most of the time. And so when I need a break, I just kind of think about that,
Yeah, I like to listen to music too, and like practice playing the drums. But also sometimes when I really need a break, I'll just sit down and I'll make a list of everything I have to do. And sometimes that'll just help, because I'll be like, all right, this is what I have to do, this is how much time I have. And just kind of organizing yourself, I think, is a good way to almost take a break. But you're still, when you're really, really busy, you're still doing something, but you're kind of not really doing anything, if that makes sense. So it's a good way to get things done, but still kind of be relaxing.
I just like to go into my room and just maybe think about what I'm doing and think how I can make it better, and just maybe read a book, just calm myself down.
I always just go outside and lay on my hammock, and sometimes I listen to music, but other times I just go out there and just appreciate the silence, and it's not all the stimulation of being in my house and having my whole family around or watching a movie or something. It's just outside, peace and quiet, and kind of recharges my battery.
I like to read too, like you were saying, reading and swimming. Really, there's a pool where I live, and it's usually crowded, but you can usually find some part of it because it's a big pool that's secluded, and just swim laps.
Water seems like a very therapeutic, like Nicole said, way to just calm down. I read somewhere that people like listening to washing machines and the ocean and stuff because it's their last image of complete serenity, being in your mother's womb with all the water in there. And that's what I read that somewhere in my religion class. And that's why people are drawn to water.
How do you know when you're just at the point that you have so many things on your plate you need a break? Because sometimes it's hard to tell, in high school and other parts of your life, it's usually stressful, that's a normal thing. But how do you know when it's time to say enough, I need to say no to this thing or decide to do something else?
I know for sure when I need a break is when I'm afraid to come out of my room or answer the phone, that someone's gonna be like, oh, you have to do this. And I'm just like, no, stop giving me things to do. I have to get these things done before you give me any more stuff to do. That's when I know I'm at my limit. So
I know I'm at breaking point when I keep a date book all the time, but when I can't remember my schedule, if I don't look at a piece of paper, I think that's unhealthy. So that's when I know that I need a break, because if you're living your life by a book, it's kind of scary. So you gotta take a break.
I think just when we have so many things on our plate, you know what I mean? There's just times where there's so much going on at once that it's just overwhelming, and I find that I just need to step back and be okay, stop, hit the pause button and be I need to get out of this. I need to, reevaluate the situation or whatever.
And it's good to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it can just progress until you become grumpy or even become sick because you overwork yourself so much.
Exactly.
I keep a date book too, and when there's no more lines left on the little square under the date, that's when things have piled up a little too much.
Yeah, I can usually tell when things are too much too. When I start to act differently around people, I start to get nervous. Maybe I'm a little cranky, then I realize that, I'm not really being myself, and that I have to calm down, take a break, and get back to my usual, personality and stuff.
Matthew Kelly talked about how his life can get busy and give some advice on what to do when you need a break.
Let's check it out.
Certainly feel like there's not enough time for me to do all the things I want to do, and I think so it's a matter of prioritizing and working out what's most important, and then sort of categorizing what do I need to do. What do I do? Well, good things are built into my schedule, Sundays off is a great thing for me. It's my favorite day of the week. And I think that helps. I think if you're regularly taking time off, then you don't get into a crisis situation where you feel completely overwhelmed. You know, I like to look at the 4 different areas: physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. And I like to do one thing in each of the areas that will really enrich me and really renew me. You know, so maybe physically, maybe going for a run or taking a long walk, you know. Emotionally, maybe hanging out with friends or spending some time with family. You know, intellectually, maybe you're laying around in the afternoon and reading a good book. And then spiritually, you know, going to church, but also maybe you're spending some time with the scriptures, you know, or spending just some time in quiet, thinking about who I am and what I'm here for and what God is calling me to. You know, we all have this voice within us, you know, call it conscience or whatever you want to call it, but we have this voice within us, and when we're children, we hear it very clearly. But as we grow older, we begin to hear all these voices outside of us, and we begin to listen to all of these voices outside of us. And as we do, we begin to doubt this voice within us. We begin to doubt and question this voice within us, and it grows dimmer and dimmer, softer and quieter, until most people can hardly hear that voice anymore. We need to learn to step away from the noise of the world, to step away from all these other voices, and to step into the classroom of silence, and to learn to listen to that voice within us again.
I think he's right about listening to the voice within you.
I definitely agree, and I think that it's important to remember that your date book or your Palm Pilot isn't going to pop up and say, Alicia, you're doing too much, you need to stop. You're going to hear it inside, and you're just going to know. And like you said, in the classroom of silence, you can learn about yourself. You can learn what you like to do, what it's more important for you to be doing at a certain time than another time.
I think the most like important thing is really like finding a balance for yourself. You know, whatever works for you, because some people can handle like, you know, everything on their plate, and they don't like awkward silence or, you know, whatever. I think it's really prioritize, like you said, you know, what's important to you and put those things first. You can't spread yourself too thin. You can't, you know, overwork yourself, because it really is unhealthy. You know, it could physically be unhealthy, but it's unhealthy for, you know, like your spirituality as well.
It really struck me when you said that, you know, little children can hear their conscience very clearly and always follow it. That when Jesus said we're supposed to be like little children, you know what I mean? Because when we grow up, there's all the other distractions and everything of the world. We have to remember, you know, like what we were like when we were little children, when we heard our conscience and we listened to it like without question.
It just shows how much we're affected and influenced by society. I mean, you know, just because everybody around you seems to be fast-paced doesn't mean you have to follow that. You have to follow what's best for you, and maybe that's not a very quick schedule.
Yeah, you just have to remember what you like doing, and if, you know, somebody asks you to do something and you're like, well, I'm not really interested in that activity, but oh, it would look good on my college resume or application, you just kind of have to think, all right, but I don't really want to do it, so why don't I find some other activity that I can like cope with and that I would really enjoy doing, because that's what it's all about. Things don't seem to be so stressful when you really, really love doing it and you're really dedicated to them.
Some people, like, I hate not to be busy. Generally, I try to keep my schedule pretty full, but every now and then I think everybody, even like me, you know, you need to take a couple of days off, because otherwise you just lose your mind. You really need to take a few days off and just relax and, like you said, spend some time in the classroom silent.
Exactly. We also asked our teens on the street if they pray when life gets crazy and they need a break.
Let's check it out.
Do you ever pray when you feel overwhelmed and need a break?
Yeah, all the time, because it gives you kind of like a sense of calming, and you don't have to worry about what God's going to say to you, because you can't, you know, He's always supportive.
This definitely gives you the confidence and kind of the drive to, you know, keep going and to just, you know, keep working.
I pray whenever I need to.
If something really bad happens, I usually go in my room, pray real hard and stuff. So, but not all the time I pray.
You know, sometimes it's a little stuff's going wrong. Try to look for answers and try to pray.
Yeah, once in a while, you know, if stuff starts to get hectic or, you know, out of hand, you just sit down and pray for a couple minutes.
When you are so crazed and hectic, like sometimes there's really nowhere else you can turn, and it's almost like the best place to turn when you really need to just vent, and you feel like there's no one really other to listen to you.
I'm really glad that so many teens see how calming and how powerful prayer can be in your life, especially when you have so many things to do and you don't know how you're going to finish them. How am I going to balance everything out? And how am I going to improve my life so that I can prioritize and know what God wants me to do, what God might not want me to do, and really what's best to fit into my schedule. But it's definitely calming when you're not really sure how you're going to fit everything in, just to talk to God and be like, please help me to get through this time.
A lot of the teens said that they only pray when there's like a problem. Like they always are like, we're praying when I have a big problem or when things are getting hectic. Why don't you try praying to God when things are good and asking, please keep it like this, or please give me like enough like wit to know when enough is enough and I need to take a break, and maybe that'll help a little bit.
Do any of you find that it helps out when you pray to God when your schedule is very busy?
It really helps. Sorry. It really helps me out. Like at the end of school, I was like crazed. Like I had so much stuff to do, and like I was afraid I wasn't gonna make all my deadlines and everything. So I was really like at my breaking point, like we were saying before. So I just like stepped back, I prayed, and I was like, I can't handle this. Like I can't handle all the work. I have to do all this stuff. And then it just happened that like I got exempted from tests. I didn't need to do other activities. Like all the doors like totally opened, and I was like, hey, why didn't I think about praying before? You know what I mean? Like it worked out so well that, God certainly answered my prayers.
Yeah, it's said, we shouldn't sit around and wait for things to get bad before we pray. It's just be thankful. In our next segment, Matthew Kelly talks more about the importance of taking a break and that we all must recognize this need for a break.
Our culture is just obsessed with noise and speed and activity, and that we have a real need for rest and renewal. And that we read in the scriptures, God creating the world, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth day, resting on the seventh day. Why did he rest? Not because he was tired. God doesn't get tired. It's a pure spirit. Doesn't experience fatigue or exhaustion. He rested because he foresaw our need for rest. And foreseeing our need for rest, he created this Sabbath, this day of rest and renewal, which naturally creates a rhythm, which creates harmony and efficiency in our lives. Well, I think, when we understand who we are and what God's created us to be, he hasn't just created us to be like these cogs in the global economic wheel. He hasn't created us just to live these lives of quiet desperation, just get caught up in the day-to-day drudgery of life, just be kidnapped by the rat race. And I think once we realize that he's created us to do something unique as an individual with unique talents and abilities and gifts, then we start to recognize what some of our legitimate needs are in each of the four areas of life, physically, emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually. And then I think you begin to recognize the real need for rest in your life.
I like what Mr. Kelly said about, the rhythm of life. God gave us 7 days, and one of them was made for rest. And we have to recognize this and recognize that we need this day to live healthy, live a healthy life and, complete the cycle.
Exactly, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, like you said. But also, without that one day, without taking that special day to remember God, it's very easy with all of the things that are thrown at us in our lives to kind of forget to thank God and forget to just connect with him on a daily basis. So that day really allows us to go to church and do other things with our family in a way that we can connect with God more.
Yeah. On Sundays, I'll come back from church and volunteering in the hospital, and I'll actually be home. My parents will be like, well, since you're home, why don't you clean your room or something? I'm like, no, I really don't need to do anything. I just need to chill. I just need to rest. So
I think everybody really needs prayer in their everyday life, but especially on Sunday, because Sunday is it's a day where you need to get closer. You need to take some time off for yourself and for God. You've got 6 days ahead of you where your life's going to be hectic and busy, especially during the school year. But Sunday is the one day where you can just go up into your room and lock yourself in there for most of the day.
I think praying also doesn't have to be so formal all the time. Like you can pray and it could be like having a conversation, with God. And he's never going to judge you on what you're saying. It could be just like talking to a friend, you know what I mean? And you're not going to get judged for what you're saying. And I think that's like very helpful to a lot of people because, you know, you might not want to talk to your friend about everything that's going on or whatever in your life, that, you know, you feel overwhelmed or something, and sometimes it's good to just let it out, and it's like kind of like, you know, like a confessional, but like you're venting, so.
And on those rare occasions that you have free time, your faith can kind of influence, like maybe you can spend it helping someone or doing something positive that God would want you to do for other people.
Mm-hmm.
In the Gospel of Mark, Jesus invited his apostles to come away by yourselves to a deserted place and rest a while.
And in the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest."
Can you imagine the pressure the apostles felt with the responsibility of telling all people about the Savior of the world?
But even they needed to take a break and rejuvenate their body, mind, and soul.
So schedule some quiet time for yourself and rest in the presence of God.
What do you do when you need a break?
We want to know what you think.
Log on to our website.
You can post your thoughts on our message boards or drop us an email. The address is www.realfaithtv.com.
Or call us at area code 609-406-7402.
And remember what the prophet Isaiah wrote in chapter 40, verse 29-31.
He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak.
Even teens grow tired and weak.
But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength.
They will soar on wings like eagles.
They will run and not grow weary.
They will walk and not be faint.
God bless you, and we'll see you next time
on Real Faith TV. God bless you.